everybody, and welcome again. It is What Drives Us, show number 394. I don't feel that old, but I guess I am that old. 394 it is. And we are here with, of course, the fabulous group of panelists here. And I'm going to start with Mark Coughlin, sitting up there in Canada, looking pretty calm, cool, and collected out there.
Trying to be. Thanks, Georgia. Yeah, welcome to the show, everyone. We've got some interesting stories tonight that we're going to go through. So with that, let's get going.
All right. And headed over to Paul Grizik, over there in Boulder, Colorado Hybrids. Tell us what's going on, Paul. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Thank you. Glad to be back. Let's see. I had two stories this week. The one, and we'll put a link up in the show, was a story that appeared on a Consumer Reports website.
Paul, we're going to introduce the rest of the panel first.
What's that?
We're going to introduce the rest of the panel first.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were doing stories. My bad.
Not quite yet, Paul.
Hi.
I like the fact that you are eager. I love that.
Go.
Yeah.
Head over to Patrick Cotter.
Hello. I won't take too long because Paul's anxious. So hi, everybody, and welcome to our alternative transportation program.
And, of course, the wonderful Kacey Green. Say hey, Kacey.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. It's a bit brisk out. We're looking at 38 degrees outside Fahrenheit, and
Oh, really? Well, in that case, now that everybody's been introduced, I'm going to throw this back over to Paul, and he's going to talk a little bit about a Consumer Report study on EVs.
That's right. And this is something that's probably no news to anybody on this panel, but to the general consumer, it might be interesting. And the gist of the article is EVs and even plug-in hybrids cost half as much to maintain as an owner of those vehicles. And I can certainly attest to that as a repair shop owner. Very little issues come in with pure EVs. They're very simple machines, extremely reliable compared to the complexity of an internal combustion engine. So, that's one thing to factor when you're buying a new car is you're going to spend less on maintenance with an EV and a plug-in hybrid. And anyone here who owns a vehicle is aware of that, but factor that into your purchase decision because, I had a customer come in, his other car is a Prius. He says, hey, I took my Audi to the dealer for an oil change and they wanted $500 to change the oil. And they said, well, but if you buy two, it's only $400 each visit.
What a deal.
If you prepay for two visits. And he was disgusted by that, which he should be. And he said, well, why is it so much for an Audi? They go, well, we do other things. We'll change the cabin filter and we'll vacuum the car. And, it's just ridiculous what some of these service departments are charging. So with an EV, there's really no oil changes, no tune-ups, no timing belts, no exhaust systems. I'm going to sidetrack here to catalytic converter theft, which is rampant in this country all of a sudden. It is the new pandemic. Uh-oh. If you have a car with a catalytic converter, which is all gasoline and diesel cars, no EVs have catalytic converters, so another benefit of an EV. People are stealing them because they are valuable in the black market. I put a link on our Facebook page, What Drives Us. Check it out. But unfortunately, thieves are targeting Priuses because the amount of precious metals in a Prius catalytic converter are valuable and they're relatively easy to cut off of the car. And the chances of the thief getting shot by a Prius owner are pretty slim because Prius owners are pretty mellow. They're not like your F-150 owner with a shotgun in the back seat. So
I really think Prius owners need to step up then.
Yes.
More
they got to
Prius
grow a
owners.
pair and defend their property.
So let's talk about that $400 though. So the now extinct 2-year annual service on my Model S 90D was barely that price, and they changed all the coolants, including the whole battery pack, brake fluid, 12-volt battery, cabin filters, new key batteries, tire rotation. I mean, I felt I got at least $400 worth of work for their labor hours. So I mean, Wow, for
And
some oil changes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you probably didn't have to do most of that.
Right,
I mean,
they
it's
got
nice
rid
to
of
do
it because you don't need to do it anymore.
No. I mean, the modern coolants that cars have can go 10 years. Brake fluid holds up very well. A lot of key fob batteries last 2 to 3 years. So, yeah, it's great to go in and having your car checked over, but it's less important on an EV than, and even, regular cars don't need as much.
Yeah.
But anyway, just factor that into your total costs of ownership when you're looking at a car.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the plug-in hybrid was as cheap as the EV, because I assumed with the internal combustion engine in there that it was going to be closer to ICE.
Well, we've seen, at least around here, is people who buy plug-in hybrids are people who 98% of the time drive within the electric range, but they want that gas engine as a security blanket. So if they have to go a little farther, they'll get home, or if they want to go on a road trip, they can use the vehicle. But the bulk of plug-in hybrid owners drive 30 to 50 miles a day, which is the range of many plug-in hybrids. So their gas engine isn't running as often as a regular car or a regular hybrid.
Right. So even if they're driving 12,000 miles a year, if only 1,000 of that's on the gas engine, then
yeah, you change your oil every 2 years instead of every 3,000 to 4,000 miles. So.
That makes sense. A lot less wear and tear.
Yeah.
A lot of my Volt customers, they had bought the Volt in anticipation of, one, they wanted the like Paul said, the security blanket should they happen to have stuff happen and their day get shook up, that they could run on gas if they had to. And then the rest of them had these 1 or 2 or 4 trips a year they would take that are longer than the range, and so having that gas available meant that they didn't have to buy a bigger battery.
Mark, when you had your Vote, didn't you go like a year before you put gas in it?
Yeah, I went an entire year without putting fuel in it.
Yeah.
So it's I still have it. So
okay. You did put fuel in it. It was just electron fuel, not
exactly. Yeah, just electricity for the vast majority of time.
But it's nice to know if you have to go on an extended trip that's unplanned at the end of the day, you can do it.
You're always driving with a plan B.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry if the charging station is out of service because you just run on gas. So for a lot of people, that's kind of training wheels into the EV world.
It is.
And then they might buy a Tesla after that.
I do wonder, though, as you have more luxury car manufacturers heading into the EV, but they're starting off with hybrids and they're heading into the EV market. Are we going to see that suddenly that maintenance cost rises a little bit more just because of the nature of the vehicles?
Oh, I bet it does. I mean, just like Paul talked about with the Audi dealership, it was a full luxury service, not just an oil change. And Audi's an expensive vehicle, and for a lot of Audi customers, they probably want that. Why not get white glove if money's nothing to you?
They get cappuccino. They get a free loaner of the new model to take to work for the day. But if you've got the money to spend $400 or $500 getting your car serviced, go for it. But the average person would rather spend that money on something else.
Yeah, totally agree.
Fair. All right. And now I have a little breakthrough in battery power for you guys. And that is fascinating, but I don't know if it's going to really have an impact on the market right away. So, new material makes hydrogen use for fuel cells work under much hotter, drier conditions. And this is due to a collaborative research team that includes the Los Alamos National Laboratory, University of Stuttgart, University of New Mexico, and Sandia National Laboratories. And they've developed a proton conductor for fuel cells based on, let me double check because I'm going to trip over this at some point, polystyrene phosphonic acids that maintain high protonic conductivity up to 200 degrees Celsius without water. Now, what this means, in simpler, is that they show surprisingly good proton conductivity at the temperature range of a little less than 100 degrees Celsius, and unexpected chemical and thermal stability at just under 300 degrees Celsius. And that means that we're going to have a much better battery sooner rather than later. So I'm kind of excited about this because one of the things for me with the hydrogen fuel cell is when getting rid of less efficient batteries and being able to replace them with hydrogen fuel cells in general. And if we're able, it would be great if we can also make them even smaller. So this is going to be a development to watch. And I don't know, maybe this means that we're going to have that hydrogen fuel cell car in an achievable, budget-friendly format much quicker than we expected. How about you?
I'm not a hydrogen fan, so I've made that abundantly clear on here in the past. So you can do something in the lab, sure, but how's it going to translate to the real world? We see this with all kinds of new technology breakthroughs. Lab breakthroughs are great. That's wonderful. Scientists need to keep doing that fundamental research. But wake me up when it becomes a real product.
and there's a place to refuel the car on every corner.
Yeah. We need a ton of improvements for fuel cells to become practical, but where we are likely to see them first is on long-haul transportation like semi-trucks, seafaring vessels, and airplanes. But even they need more breakthroughs for it to be practical.
And even fleets like postal vehicles or package delivery, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But certainly I would say if they want to spend their money in research, keep on doing it. Like, it doesn't hurt to have a couple of irons in the fire as they continue along. So would like to see the developments get better, and as Patrick said, get to market in a sellable form. But in order to do that, you need the research. You need to get a number of different prototypes and find out what works best and what to iterate on.
Yeah,
well,
because
even if it's not in a consumer level vehicle, considering the environmental costs of things for the logistics of delivering food and packages, a fuel cell, especially for public transportation needs, that could be a great development. Now,
Certainly, bigger vehicle, absolutely.
I agree with Patrick though. It's like, yeah, the breakthrough is nice, but when am I going to actually be able to see this on the street doing something good for me? So I do get that point.
They also have to not get the hydrogen from natural gas, because that might as well just burn the natural gas.
Yeah, there is the fuel source of where it comes from and how it's developed. We've seen recently in the Tokyo Olympics that have been delayed for a year. They were going with all hydrogen vehicles to deliver athletes and officials and being couriers for the games. What they didn't tell us is that all their hydrogen is being imported by a ship that's being made elsewhere and then stored in tanks in Japan for the Olympics. So really, what are they doing? They're spending a lot more CO2 to transport this, to make it, and then to put it in zero emission vehicles. If you don't have the whole cycle done, it doesn't really matter what you're doing.
It does sound like greenwashing to me. That kind of
a lot of times it is. I had the opportunity to drive a couple of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles a couple times, and they're nice. They're smooth. They're just like loud EVs. Just because the fans are going to keep that stack cool. But go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I hope that ship in Japan is not named the Hindenburg.
All right, we're going to wrap up with that, and we're going to head over to Mark, and he's going to talk a little bit about the Tesla life. Let us know how life is going on these Tesla streets.
Yes, indeed. I did want to touch upon one thing that's outside of Tesla, but still part of the overall thing, is the Boring Company, which we love to speak about on this show. I don't know why, but they've got a new tunnel completed, a station completed, and they put some pictures up on their website. And I'm going to share that screen with you guys right now, so you can see this the inside shot of the first underground station in the Las Vegas Loop. You've got the escalator coming down, and then on right and left of the escalators, you've got, of course, the tunnels that go to the other station. There's a north and a south station. But looks like the rave has begun.
Maybe the trash can is behind the escalator.
Maybe the trash can's behind. Yeah, exactly. So good to see Ed, and the tunnels are dug. The station is now being built. And another thing on this story is that the Wynn Hotel has got it approved to push another tunnel from this existing system, the convention center, to their hotel. So that's been approved for the Boring Company to start drilling their next set of tunnels towards the Las Vegas Strip. So they're having success, and things are moving forward in Las Vegas. Next, of course, slightly off the Tesla trail again, is that the Starship did a test launch today to get some data. It went up about 12.5 kilometers on 3 Raptor engines, and then stopped ascent and started to come down. It did a belly flop to slow itself down, and eventually it turned at the last moment to land partially successfully on the concrete strip.
What's a partially successful?
Hard landing with an unplanned rapid disassembly.
Yeah, the flames aren't supposed to be green, Paul. They're just supposed to be orange and blue.
So, it was a spectacular end to a test as it exploded on the pad. But what a scene to watch! It launch that high and under controlled circumstances. If one of the engines didn't blow out, it looked like it was going to be darn close to a successful landing as well. So that was certainly fun to watch, and that happened just before airtime. So that just a short while ago.
And that was an unmanned vehicle.
Completely unmanned. Exactly. And of course,
explain the landing then.
Yeah, of course, they had indicated that this Starship 8 protocol unit was. They indicated that it was probably only 20% that it would do the full thing, the full 3 items successfully. So they were absolutely correct. And Starship prototype number 9 is already under construction, and they will build the this with the extra data that they collected from today's test flight.
Yeah, it's the prototype number 9 should be out hopefully the next time that they've already requested another road closure, so hopefully we see it as early as tomorrow. But I don't have my hopes up for tomorrow.
In Tesla news, we've got that the short sellers, which have been a part of Tesla since its beginning, this year lost $35 billion with a B dollars in 2020 so far, and they've got another 2.5 weeks to go. So who knows what they'll continue to lose. But with Tesla's soaring stock price, the people trying to keep on top of the amounts that they have shorted the stock is costing them dearly. Many of those people are dropping out of it because they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel, although there's still a few that believe Tesla's still in trouble. So we'll see if it continues. And finally, on the financial front of Tesla, again, with the escalating price that we've seen over the past month, and it continues to reach new highs, Tesla decided to do a $5 billion capital raise, and have indicated that they're just going to add that to their financials and just pad the money that they already have in the bank. They already $14 billion that they have at the end of Q3. And of course, with Tesla making profit in every of the past 5 quarters, we just see this bank account growing. So things looking quite rosy for Tesla, and it'll be interesting to see how that time goes along. Kacey, you've got something on a taxi for Tesla. What's that?
Yeah, so Russell wanted to have this as a story, and I'm sure I won't do it the justice that he had planned, but There's a Dutch taxi company, and they're suing Tesla for 1.3 million euros for defective cars.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've heard about this group before. I remember that they refused delivery when a number of them showed up originally. So they've been squawking about this for some time.
Well, and taxi drivers are hard on cars. I mean, they don't treat them like private people treat their own personal car. They beat the crap out of them.
They don't. And,
yeah, because we just heard about how the maintenance is half as much for regular people.
Regular people. Yes.
These are irregular people.
I'm sure it's probably still lower than the S-Class or whatever other luxury executive limo they would use.
Sure.
Maybe not half.
But are the cars not holding up? What's the ish?
It seems that these are earlier units, and like it says in 2014 and 2018, this group had clashes with Tesla. So the 2014 we knew they were still getting their sea legs, and the 2018 was right when the Model 3 was hitting its ramp. So I mean they very well could have had what they allege happened to them. So. Or at least to some level, even if not 100% of what they said happened.
But it's interesting they didn't want to go through the same route that customers go through. That typically, if you've got a panel gap, if you get an issue with weather stripping or whatever it is, it just gets serviced and fixed. Maybe they didn't want to go through that route because of the time required or something else. But
perhaps. Maybe they were used to more white glove service.
They didn't use that same formula that others have used, unless things are different in Europe.
And here's a sampling of one of the things they complain about. It's the sound of the suspension on one of their Model X's, and I've had friends with this happen, and they get repaired just fine at the service center. So here we go.
Is that an elephant in your trunk?
That is the car maneuvering at parking lot speeds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound good at all. Nope.
It does not.
Yeah, so that was a Model X, and there was some suspension bolt recall that is going on right now. So maybe this one has that, and it would even be covered for free. But hey, if you can instead file a lawsuit and get 1.3 billion euros, why not? No, million. Sorry,
million.
Billion.
Yeah.
And Kacey also has another story for us. Go on ahead, Kacey. Tell us about the
one about I've got an Aptera. But not just this Aptera. Yes, not just this Aptera, which the company did send me after our last show with them. I reserved an Aptera Paradigm Plus. It's a 1,000-mile range. It's got the full solar panel array, just like this model does. And I'm sure Russell will tell me that that's never going to happen. But I think
I got to tell you, it's never going to happen.
I know you were going to, but you're right here to tell me.
You would have got the same result.
Just in case people are, not able to see the Aptera. That's
and that's the one I did. I did it in what they call noir. So it's matte black on the lower side and gloss black on the solar panels and glass.
That's pretty damned fancy, huh?
Isn't it?
Like a Jetsons car.
Exactly. And so I don't know if they're going to come to market this time. They didn't last time, but the situation is different this time.
The time before that.
They've only gone out of business once. And the original founders, as we discussed with them on the show a few months ago, they are back in control of the company. They've rescued it from the situation where it got ran into the ground, and they've tuned up the reason this looks so much like the original is it's built to the same principles, but now instead of being a couple hundred parts for the body shell, it's only 4 parts to the body shell. You've got the lower, what they call the spider, and then the left and right sides. And they've got what's now called the never charge system. So it's if you get the top tier, you're looking at a 1,000-mile range, and if you drive less than the national average of 40 miles a day or less, then you never have to plug it in if you park it in the sunlight. That's appealing to me because I was already interested in the original Aptera Type 1 that was a hybrid, and then the Type 2E, which won all those Automotive X Prize and all the other races it was in. Those were very intriguing to me, and I didn't have the money for the initial reservation the first time around because I was a lot younger 10 years ago. And
As we all were.
yeah.
Speak for yourself.
We were all younger 10 years ago.
Yes, and so now that that their
We were a
reservation
lot
prices,
poorer 10 years ago.
right? And so now that the reservation prices come down to a lowly $100, I've added it to my reservation stable with the Cybertruck, and I would be glad to do my daily commuting in this, and then have my wife drive the Model X around, and then take my Cybertruck whenever I needed something with more seats or more towing capacity.
Well, I support you, and I hope it's not a vapor car.
I hope so too. But if you are also interested in raising your hand, the Paradigm and Paradigm Plus models are sold out, and you can go to aptera.us, aptera.us, and you can configure a not first run model to your specs. They
I
start
fully
at
support
25
it.
and they work their way up to 40 something.
We're already in the dystopian future of our childhood dreams, so you might as well get a dystopian future car. Go for
Hey,
it.
this car was in the Star Trek reboot.
Yes, it was.
Does everybody remember what you had to go through to get to Star Trek? I remember how we wound up being part of the Federation. I'm just pointing this out.
Hopefully it doesn't come to all of that.
All right. And next up, we're going to go to Paul. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Speaking of startups and investing in deposits, I'd never seen this site before. I stumbled upon it this week. It's called Start Engine. It's kind of like a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo or whatever it's called. It's a way to fund startups and sort of donate money to their cause and get a product. But the difference between Start Engine and these other ones is you actually get equity in the company. So, for example, this one I'm showing is Rumbo Motors, and they've got this little e-bike, motorcycle / bike type thing. It's pretty cool looking. But if you invest $230 in the venture, you get shares in the company. So if they ever do come to something real or get acquired, you might actually make money on your investment, and you get a discount if you decide to buy one of their products by investing in them. So I guess this might be a future way that startups get funded by, crowdfunding, but they actually issue, they value the company today at $12 million and $10 a share. And if you buy the shares and Tesla decides to acquire these guys and their shares quadruple, you make some money. So interesting way to fund startups, I thought. And they've got a couple of cool looking machines. So check them out, Rumble Motors at startengine.com.
That's pretty cool. And
Start
just
your
as a disclaimer, what drives us bears absolutely no fiscal responsibility if you decide to go there and buy some shares.
Yes, you might as well invest in Vegas, but you never know.
Just remember, everything is a gamble, especially investments. So
Investments and pre-orders.
Yeah, these are pre-IPO
but you-
companies, so they could pretty easily
They
go
could
under.
they could go to zero overnight, but if you want to support the EV industry and the minimum investment is $230, so instead of donating to your local charity, $230, you might want to donate to a company that might change transportation. But it is very risky. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised they're called Rumble Motors and Rumble to me seems like something about a gas engine. Rumbling.
You're the rumble of the engine.
Right. Yeah. So for something that's supposed to be smooth and quiet and electric, Rumble seems like an odd name choice.
Maybe it's because it's an off-road bike. You're rumbling down the road.
Yeah, or it's going to include a speaker that'll vroom 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 for you.
Yeah.
Or it's got a rumble seat that your passenger sits backwards on the bike.
Rumble controllers.
Hey, they could have called it like non-rumble motors or something, right? But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. That's how creative startups are trying to fund themselves nowadays.
I think it's pretty cool. I do think it's pretty cool. It's an interesting way to do that without having to go chase down the investment dollars to get funding. There's a number of sites like this that focus on a number of things, like company that I once worked with, the Foobler, and that is an actual dog training toy that you put the food in, and it allows you to give them an activity so they get to use their hunting instincts on the toy, not on your sofa or something. And it helps with food motivation. And the guys behind that actually did a crowdfunding for creating, no, not a joke, a rhinoceros durable version of that, because they wanted to create an enrichment toy for zoos. So yes, and people could invest in, I forgot what the site was called, but basically that's what they found. They did crowdfunding for people who did these kinds of science-based toys and learning environments and projects. So I think it's actually a fabulous idea. But once again, what drives this episode has no responsibility if you lose any money on anything you buy.
And to add to the irony of Rumble Motors being an EV bike, the website is called Start Engine, an EV company.
Start your engines. And yeah, again, we're not investment advice folks. We're 5 folks on the internet, and
you get what you pay for when you ask for our advice.
Exactly. Take what we've alerted you to your professional, and then decide.
That's right. Kacey's we're gonna bounce back to Kacey for one more thing.
Yeah. So a bunch of us in here were poo-pooing on the Hummer EV when it came out, because we found out that it was not a working prototype. It was a nice model and then a CGI actor. Yeah. So GM decided. Huh? Say again?
It's a deep fake.
It was a deep fake. And so
it only goes downhill.
It didn't go at all. But the non-bodied stand-in vehicle, it did go uphill, downhill, across the rocks. I don't know if it really did the crab walk. I would assume it probably did. It just didn't have a shell on it. And apparently we weren't the only ones with this observation and concern. So GM has quickly completed one of their prototypes about a month later and showed us that it can drive, which, if they did this the day after to kind of prove us all wrong, that would have been really cool. They're a large company. They're not new to EVs. So the fact that they can make a working prototype, as Musk says, prototypes are easy. Turning out 1 million copies at, profitability is a lot harder.
Yeah, so it is sad that they did that whole marketing launch based on this static display. They invited several YouTubers and they got all this footage, but they weren't test driving it. They weren't even going around the block or doing the crab walk and over some rocks. And they could have done so much better of a launch. And of course, GM knows how to make products. They have a good history. They're not like some startup, but they were recently associated with one that had some reputation burns, and so I would have expected better of them. And I'm glad they finally made it right here.
And to point out, a lot of the YouTubers will disagree with Mark that they didn't move. But what they showed were very much like the very first Volt, the one that looked like a really cool Camaro, not the aerodynamic awesome thing that Mark and I bought. It was running on less than a real pack. The Volts were actually running on 12-volt car batteries, where it was if you saw the Hummer move, it was the parking lot speeds are lower. It wasn't a real pack. It wasn't a real vehicle. And so now we've got a real working mule or prototype, and they showed it to us. So if they can keep this pace up and then, bring it to mass production, that would be awesome.
I got to believe it was something to do with the marketing strategy as to how they had to release it at a certain time in order to get it in front of a certain group of people on a certain day that they felt that was ideal for them. And not having a working prototype certainly is a bit of a black eye. But as you mentioned, Patrick, GM knows how to build vehicles. They can build them. They have experience in the EV market for a long time. I'm glad that they're serious about this, and all indications seem that they're serious about this with the investments they've made in EVs. And it's just kind of disappointing that at their first rollout of the new Ultimate battery pack that there was a bit of a misstep. Maybe because of marketing, maybe because of timetables that were laid out ahead of them, and they had to move on it. But yeah, we'll watch and see if they get better as time goes along with the launch of this new Hummer EV.
I wonder if they were hoping to get okay, we're going to launch it in mid-November, and then it'll be the talk at all the Thanksgiving tables or something. I don't know.
Yeah, to build on that, remember, we first heard about this thing before the first cases of COVID, and so they had planned the thing out. They've got all their big marketing buy for basketball. We're going to unveil the grill. For football, we're going to do this. And then for Thanksgiving, we're going to show you it driving up and doing the crab walk and all that. But when your factories and your engineering labs and everything get shut down for the year because of global pandemic, I'm impressed that they were able to come out with what they did. I'm sure that they, as Mark was saying, they probably were obligated to these ad buys and all of this other pre-arranged marketing. And so rather than lose, your deposits, why not put something out there? Like Mark said, like I said, everybody knows GM knows how to build cars. They've been doing it for 100 years. So why not show something instead of just wasting the money?
I'm going to agree with you on that one because for something this big and this huge, they already had a major stumble with the partnership and the slalom fake car that they used.
Downhill.
That's two strikes. They could not something this major. The plan was definitely laid in advance, months upon months ago, if not last year at some point in time, and then getting look, if Cyberpunk 2077, whatever the hell, was delayed, then definitely a car is going to be delayed. So I'm impressed that they actually managed to get a working prototype out and have whatever they could show. So kudos to them on that. Now, where I'm skeptical is, are we going to get all the features promised in that initial prototype? And are you actually going to have it to market when you felt you were going to do it with all the features promised and at the same price point that you were talking about? So that's going to be something I think to keep our eyes on for this model.
Do you think we'll find out how many of the sold out in 12 hours or less first run? We'll find out how many there were, or is it going to be a secret forever?
I think eventually, if they don't tell us, we'll figure it out.
I'm sure many reporters are working on that as we speak.
We're going to have to find the bodies because I'm pretty sure somebody lost. If they didn't completely get cut, then they definitely, got barely scalped for the complete pratfall of this initial partnership. So see what happens.
Hackers have broke in. Were they trying to steal money? Were they trying to steal designs? No, they were just trying to figure out how many cars have been reserved of the Hummer.
Yeah, because it's one thing to sell out 12 cars versus 12,000 or 120,000.
And these were full deposits, right? They weren't $100 hand raisers.
Oh, I don't know.
Because it is a $112,000 car for the first run.
I don't know what the deposit was. That's a good question.
Man, who knew that there were that many people willing to shovel that much money towards?
Well, look at the initial Hummer run.
Guess so.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna bounce from this, and yeah, I don't know. I'm being a little short on that one, I guess.
That's fine.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about Uber and a funny development because they've spent billions on the self-driving car development as part of their research team, because why pay people when you can make a car that will just drive itself and we won't need to have all these freelance operators working a schedule. Oh, but you know what they just did? They're selling their autonomous vehicle research unit to the self-driving startup Aurora. And it's very funny that it's happening December 7th, 2020, because there was a rather large electoral victory that they had where their proposition to prevent California from regulating their employees, I'm sorry, freelancers, passed. And so it's almost as if, gosh, you don't need to actually teach cars to be used by Uber when you have people you can manipulate into being used by Uber. So I thought that was an interesting little story as Uber just kind of goes, see you later, to the advanced technology group arm of its business and hastily sells it to Aurora. What do you guys you think about that little development?
So when you say the proposition passed, they now have the freelancers are classed as employees.
Yeah, it passed. They're not employees.
They're not employees. Okay.
Prop
They go that way.
22 basically said that the gig economy workers for people like DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, they are not employees and should not be regulated as employees. And there was some level of concession, I think, to unemployment, but there's a whole lot of employee protections. And what a lot of people didn't get about Prop 22 was that at no point was it going to turn gig employees into set hourly workers, where the apps were expected to give them a schedule and blah 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 blah. It was meant to provide more protections for them. The regulatory protections that California was trying to put on Uber and Lyft were meant to provide more personal protections to people who were working for these companies. Now, and I'm not entirely sure if it's going to stand, depending on what the hell happens with the federal government January 21st. So we might see that it does not stand because the federal government might say, hey, you know what? I think this has an impact on our federal statutes for employees, labor statutes, and so this could be something that comes back.
The poison pill made it in as well then.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you're saying, now that they don't need this threat of not having these people be employees, hey, you make them employees, we're going to fire them. Why not make some money selling this tech to a company that's already doing the tech?
You don't need it anyway. I feel like they just are saying, well, we don't need to work on this anymore.
Especially after they killed that woman. Was it last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, they disabled a bunch of the sensors on the car, didn't tell the safety driver. Safety driver was texting on her phone, and the car, the onboard Volvo pedestrian alert system was disabled. The original sensors that the driver thought were still there were disabled, so there was no warning, no beeping, no braking. The car just... Yes, she was jaywalking, but that doesn't mean that she deserved that. And the car ended that person's life. So they get the money, they get rid of the problems, and it's a win-win-win for Uber.
Well, I guess we just don't talk enough about how a lot of tech valuations create billion-dollar companies that have the actual cash on hand to create legislation and bully through on legislation, but at the end of the day, their practical use to society is not multiple billions, and we don't understand why these valuations result in them having this much ability to affect laws that change our lives.
Corporations are people, yo.
So then can't we kill them? But I don't know, it's going to be interesting. Piggybacking onto that, Kacey brought up a little story, and that is WMATA. That's the Metro Service train service in DC, and it's going to have a $500 million deficit. And I've brought this up before, talking about transportation systems and how COVID shutdowns have really just smacked them right upside the head. And now WMATA is going to go to a bare bones service level, according to their spokesperson. What does that mean? That is, trains will run every 30 minutes. It's shuttering 19 stations. It's cutting bus services to a fraction of what it was before COVID and closing down the system entirely at 9 p.m. It could mean the loss of 2,400 jobs. So, and that's on top of another 1,000 jobs that were already presented to be cut. Now, when you consider that most people who work the essential services that have to go into work often are taking public transportation, and those of us who who are lucky enough to be able to work from home rely on them. I'm also going to bring up one little thing. I think it's just today, or maybe it was yesterday, but Mitch McConnell basically said no to the $900 billion stimulus package that was being worked out between Pelosi, Manchin, and whoever McConnell has negotiating for the Senate. And part of the sticking point was that he wants the Dems to stop limiting the liability feature in the stimulus package, which is corporate liability for COVID-related illnesses, because they are not providing PPE or enforcing the mask mandate in their work areas or doing distancing. So like Tyson Chicken, for example. And he wants Dems to stop proposing only a limited level of temporary liability. And he feels that the Democratic proposal, which would actually shoot a few billion into public transportation systems and also for state and city governments to be able to keep people on staff and keep essential services running, he feels that's unnecessary.
I don't understand these people. Here in the district, the metro is essential. I mean, not a lot of people are willing to drive their actual personal car, pay to park it, and hope it doesn't get stolen or vandalized or accidentally just bumped into by people who can't park. As if the spaces are even available. And these places don't all close at 9 o'clock. I mean, we're talking about the federal government. We're talking about hospitals, food, parks. I mean, these people need to get to and from work. And the jobs that they talk about losing are just the ones in the transportation network, right, Georgia?
Yes. And
so
when you also figure in that most essential services, especially these kind of government positions, are largely filled with a lot of minorities and oftentimes women too.
mm-hmm.
And this is going to affect the job statistics for Black, Latino, and women workers who are already being hit pretty hard.
Yeah. And so now these people can't get to work, so you're going to lose all of those jobs. And say it was just somebody who who had a second job. Now they only have one job because they can't ride the subway the subway, the metro, or the buses, whatever it takes to get to that place and clean it up. And then all of these work from home jobs. If the facilities aren't maintained and the power goes out in your data center, now the whole company's shut down.
Yeah, transportation's an essential infrastructure, and there's so many knock-on effects, just like you're talking about. That it's if you're cutting out the foundation and then you're surprised the building falls over, you weren't thinking it through.
Well, the thing is, it's like trickle-down economics, and I've had this argument with conservators before, where they try to explain to me, because I am just female presenting, and I obviously don't understand math. And I have had to break it to them gently that your millionaire is not going to show up and buy 100 pairs of $5 socks. He's going to go and find some Italian virgin sheep's wool socks that cost $500 for one pair, because your millionaires and billionaires are looking for a status symbol. They don't even need basics anymore. But if you took the money you're going to give to them and you give it to all the regular common folk who aren't millionaires, they're the ones who are going to go out and say, I need me some socks and my family needs socks. And that's why trickle-down economics doesn't work, because you're relying on the goodwill of people who absolutely don't need to give one flying fuck about the basics of life on your level at all anymore. And usually that shuts them up, because, they can't really refute that. And that's what we're seeing played out right here in Mitch McConnell and the GOP's methodology. And I'm actually even going to say this is not even something that most of the GOP want. This is Mitch McConnell by himself, because of the nature of the Senate, saying, I'm not even going to let this come to the floor for a vote. I don't care. And by the fact, and I don't even have to say I'm not going to let it come to the floor for a vote. All I have to say is, you know what? I just don't want these things in there. I want you to give blanket permanent immunity, and I don't want any money sent to the states or to cities or to deal with these infrastructure issues, because I just don't. Give me some tax cuts, and I'll let some poor people maybe have the rent moratorium and $300 extra in their pocket one time, or $600. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm going to give.
But in a city like DC, I mean, public transit is so important. I mean, if you're a service worker or a healthcare worker and you can't afford to live in the city,
they don't
commute, and let's say you have to work at the hospital, past 9 o'clock at night, what are you going to do? Spend your entire paycheck on an Uber ride to go home?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But that's the thing.
If the Uber will even go to your town or your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's the thing is that none of the people who are opposing this have to use the same services as the people they need to help.
Right.
And that is
this immunity push of his has scared the crap out of me ever since I first heard wind of it. I mean, we've seen what some of these large companies do with the oversight, and you want to tell them that they don't have to face any consequences? Yeah. They're going to abuse the shit out of this program. They're going to bring us all back and shove us in there just like the chicken plant. And
well, we are at I think we're closing in on 14 million infected. Today we hit 3,000 dead just today. So it's going to be an interesting December, to say the least, because we got no idea what the hell is going to happen. And I don't know if America's really dealing very well with the concept that we are in a tremendous crisis, and we really need somebody who gives a damn about it. So I'm sorry that we're ending on such a downer note, honestly. That is not my intention. I'm sorry.
Today, more people died from coronavirus than died in 9/11. And that's how we end the show. Thanks, everybody.
I got one more thing?
And it's every day that's happening.
Yeah. All right, Kacey, give us something brighter.
Oh, I don't got one more thing. I was hoping somebody else did.
Hey, all right, I'll do one. So, Kacey, you mentioned that next week is the anniversary of the first Leaf in the Vault coming out in 2010.
I
So,
believe so, yeah.
a decade of EVs on the road coming this month, sometime soon. I'm not sure what the exact date is. But, yeah, that's a nice little happy note.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's end it on that one. So,
Remember the Volts with the word Volt written on the side, and those first Leafs that beat them by like a couple of days?
Yeah, they were racing to be first.
Yes.
all right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And hopefully next week we'll be here with, well, at least Russell.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just the B team, guys. It's just that.
It's just us.
But we're gonna do our shout outs and go home, and I am gonna reverse it. Hey, Kacey, you get to shout out. You're popular
Yay.
tonight.
Thank you. So I did a video on a short video, 1 minute or less, how to pick the fastest supercharger if you're on a road trip or in a town that's got more than one supercharger station available to you. Ooh. And that is a complement to a video that I did where if you've arrived at a supercharger that is more than 50% full, how to have the least impact of the shared charging on the V1 and V2 stations that are still out there. And then I've also got my towing videos, towing with Tesla. They are in the editor. I just got to chop them up because there's 3 different styles and they don't really mesh. So you'll have 3 separate videos on towing. And you can find them at youtube.com/KaceyGreen. That's KACEYGREEN. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
Okay, Patrick, what's up with you?
I think Paul should go next because he's running out of battery over there.
Yeah, my computer's going. Plug my business, Boulder Hybrids in Boulder, Colorado. We fix hybrids and electric cars and plug-in hybrids, and we sell those vehicles as well. So check us out at boulderh.com.
Cool.
Especially if you're in Colorado.
Even if you're not, fly in like Russell did. Go get the car and then drive back home.
And drive back.
There
Okay, I'll go now. Yeah, thanks. I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. Hey, everybody, stay positive, test negative. See you next time.
Nice, I like it. Mark?
I want to let the viewers know if you've come this far, please give us a thumbs up in the video. Also, please press that subscribe button. That gives us another viewer, gets us in the eyes of more people, and we would really appreciate it. So please do that, and we'll see you next week.
And I guess that's me. Hey, thanks so much for joining us tonight, guys. And once again, we are so happy to have you here. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out Kacey Green. Hey, you need a car. And if you need a car in Boulder, you know who you go to? You go to Paul, because he's the important one. And then, of course, we got Patrick doing all that work over there. Follow these people. And Mark, who's got the Tesla life. Hit like and subscribe for all of us, because these are worthy folks to follow. And you stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, sneeze in your elbow, but actually in a tissue because that's still kind of gross, and then throw it. I can't handle the thought of people sneezing into their elbows and then being around others. Yeah. All right. Hit like and subscribe. Stay safe, and you guys have a great week, and find out next week what drives it. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Michael Manring.
Thank you, Michael Manring.